What we see occurring in this gospel passage is not so likely to happen today. Indeed, missionaries appointed and sent out in pairs to preach the imminent coming of the kingdom of God are in fact rare. Doing so by carrying with them only minimal provisions and thus having to be completely dependent on the charity of others to provide for their needs, ultimately, that's quite unusual. This was somewhat more acceptable and practical in the days of Jesus than it is today. Yet, we do know it holds an heroic appeal to a few denominations or groups within a denomination who try to even imitate it today. And while the Mormons may be a bit more successful at this house-to-house evangelization than the Jehovah's Witnesses, it is well known that the witnesses have to make hundreds of thousands of door calls to make just one convert. Today, television and social media are seen as more direct routes into the villages and homes of the world to spread the message of the kingdom. And while certainly that can be very effective and it should be used, unfortunately though, and we should note this, it's not always the kingdom gospel that is being preached. Rather, a blatant distortion of the message of Jesus Christ that is popularly known now as the prosperity gospel. That's what's being promoted. And sadly, the first to prosper from it are likely to be the celebrity mega pastors who preach it, whose fleecing of the flock for personal gain has caused more than just a few scandals. Yet underlying all this contemporary confusion of how to spread the kingdom is a basic truth that Jesus Christ still wants the coming of God's kingdom to be preached, and to be preached to the ends of the earth until that kingdom finally arrives in its fullness. So he does invite some to step forward, to dedicate their lives exclusively to this task, and he expects those to whom they preach and with whom they minister to cooperate with them in this effort and to support them and their work. Indeed, those who are invited to labor as priests and consecrated religious in the vineyard of the Lord that is the church need the assistance not only of ordained deacons and lay ministers, but of the whole church to support and sustain them. Unlike megachurch preachers or even clergy of other denominations that are not Catholic, who are paid significantly more than just a living wage, Catholic priests who labor in parishes make a salary, even if they've been at it for decades, that's slightly on par with a first-year teacher from a modest community. And while room and board is provided priests, the costs of acquiring a car and insuring it, their clerical clothing, saving for retirement or vacations, plus other personal expenses are in fact their own responsibility. Besides their salary, a secular priest is entitled to a $10 stipend for the celebration of a Mass for which an offering has been given, but not allowed to take more than one $10 Mass stipend per day, no matter how many Masses they might end up having to celebrate. All of this said, is not to complain, but to inform, because there is always plenty of misinformation to go around. Indeed, no one goes into full-time ordained ministry in the Catholic Church for money. But the greatest anxiety of most parish or secular priests, as we are known, is not how we're going to get by on our modest salary, but rather the discouraging level of support from the faithful that is found nearly everywhere. Statistics show that in most parishes, and with very, very few exceptions, 20% of the registered households provide 80% of the financial resources needed to run the parish, to pay its staff, to support its programs, to maintain its buildings. And while perhaps preaching to the choir in a sense, as the majority of those who are generous in supporting their parishes and its good works are those who assemble each week for Mass, yet this unequal sharing in the responsibility to support the local church, as it is an injustice that should be of concern to all of us. Indeed, sadly, a significant portion of people who place their names on parish membership rolls seldom, if ever, darken the doors of the church on any regular basis, nor do they support its existence and upkeep, but they certainly expect the church to be there when they want it to be, and to be well maintained and decorated should they come on Christmas or Easter. And they expect a priest will always be available should they decide they need his services. Ironically, they are often among those who scream the loudest when a parish must end up closing. Indeed, it usually isn't those who faithfully attended and gave and tried to keep it up and open, but found it impossible to do so. In contrast, they may sincerely mourn the loss of the parish, but they usually don't bitterly complain because they truly understand its survival was not possible. So as we hear this gospel today, that the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few, we know the truth of that, because it isn't necessarily pagan people in exotic lands whom we might have seen pictured in pamphlets and magazines long ago who need to be evangelized and called to be living stones who will build up the church. But often, it's our own family members, friends, and neighbors. Indeed, Jesus envisioned a core group of ministers dedicated primarily to evangelizing and sanctifying his people, and saw that this work must continue through his church for the sake of his kingdom. But their efforts be supported and supplemented by the practical help of many others. Indeed, deacons, lay ministers, and volunteers for sure, but also requiring the moral, material, and monetary support of all members of the church without exception as well. We can't all teach religious education. It isn't even necessary. We don't have that many students. But we can help provide the support needed to acquire a coordinator dedicated to seeking that task and making sure it's professionally done. We can't all lead the congregation in song, but we can support the compensation for musicians that do so. And our priests can't run every detail of the business that is required to be taken care of in the management of a parish and the maintenance of its property. But we can help to provide adequate support to see that the parish is staffed by dedicated people who are given at least a modest approximation of the contemporary standard of a fair wage. Indeed, we can't all be directly responsible for the charitable works that have to be carried out by any community of faith that would dare call itself Christian, but we can help support those good works done in our name for the less fortunate by the diocese or the parish on nearly a daily basis. Indeed, that will be what will be of paramount importance in the end for all of us, without exception, is that in faith and motivated by authentic Christian love, we sacrificed something of no little significance to support the advancement of God's kingdom in this, our own time and place. We don't have to reinvent the wheel to do so. As the diocese in which we reside and the parishes and their ministries and activities and charities are the vineyard in which we, in a sense, are called to labor, whether by rolling up our sleeves, getting on our knees, or opening our wallets. Yet when word came this past week that in a diocese of some 260,000 registered Catholics, that approximately 10,000 of them had contributed to the annual Catholic appeal as it was about to enter its final phase, we can hope and pray that this unimpressive level of response is due more to procrastination than indifference. But in reality, it appears to be justification for that great lament of Jesus himself, that while the vineyard's harvest is certainly potentially plentiful, is still much too few.